Hello guys, welcome to the biology lesson with me, your teacher DMS. Today's biology lesson is coming from grade 11 work on a topic known as transport and storage in plants. Without wasting much of your time, let's go straight into the topic. So guys, what is transport? So transport in plants is the movement of nutrients such as carbohydrates, mineral salts, and water. So the movement of these things I've mentioned here, carbohydrates, mineral salts, and water in plants is what we call transport and storage in plants. Basically, this topic is about this movement of nutrients. You know, human beings also move from one place to another. Also, nutrients inside the plant, water inside the plant move from one place of the plant to the other, and the topic which talks about the movement of nutrients and water from one place to another in plants is known as transport and storage in plants. So nutrients, mineral salts, and water are transported in a network of vessels that runs from the roots through the stem to the leaves. So what is being stated here, guys, is this: that the nutrients, which one are these? Proteins, or rather amino acids, and then sugars or glucose, then minerals and water are transported in a network of vessels that runs from the roots through the stem to the leaves. So there's a network of vessels or tubes, a connection of tubes in a plant that runs from the roots to the into the stem to the leaves. So that network in a plant is through which mineral salts and nutrients and water moves in a plant. So like you can see in this diagram here, we have this diagram here as just a simple illustration of a network. As you can see, we have the roots, we have the stem, we have the leaf, and then inside it we have arrows showing movement of some nutrients or mineral salts, and then we have those arrows coming also down showing the movement. So this is basically what this topic is all about. So let me push this one up here and move along. So guys, what you should know here is that this network of vessels is called vesicular bundle. So this network of vessels is called vesicular bundle, and it consists of the following parts. All right, it consists of the xylem vessels and the phloem vessels. So the vesicular bundle, which is the network of vessels through which nutrients, mineral salts, and water moves in a plant, is known as the vesicular bundle. And it consists of the xylem tubes and phloem tubes. All right, so let's move. So let's look at now the external structure of the root. So the root is very, very important in the transportation of mineral salts, water, and nutrients, and therefore it is important for you to know the structure, because most of the time you may find this question in the exam trying to ask you to label maybe the structure of the root, the external structure of the root, and also the internal structure of the root. So you must make sure, understand, and then memorize these things very well. All right, so what we are saying here is that the external parts of the root consist of root hairs, epidermis, and root cap as shown. All right, so what have we said? That the external parts of the root consist of root hairs, epidermis, and root tap as shown below. So this is the diagram that is showing us what the external parts of the roots are. So we have the root hair, the epidermis, and the root cap, those parts that are found on the outside of the root. So don't consider these side roots. These side roots are still roots like this one going down here. So what you are supposed to know here is that we have the root hair, these ones here, and then we have the epidermis, which is the outer layer, and then we have the root cap, which is the tip of the root, the tip of the root. So these are the external parts of the leaf, of the root, and then you need to know the structure of the root as it is appearing here. Alright, then what is the function of these parts of the root, the external parts of the root, like the root hair? So what you should know is that the function of the root hair is to absorb. So absorbs water and mineral ions from the soil. So root hair absorbs water and mineral or ions from the soil. So that is the function of the root hair, to absorb water and mineral ions from the soil. So what are these mineral ions? Mineral ions are nutrients or mineral elements like what are found in manure, what are found in fertilizer. So when fertilizer is put to a plant, then it dissolves in water, produces what are called either mineral elements or mineral ions, and these mineral ions are very important for the growth of a plant, and therefore they must be absorbed by a plant for it to grow. So what part of the root that helps to absorb these mineral salts? It's the root hair. Alright, so water also is needed by a plant for photosynthesis to take place and cooling. So which part of the root or plant which absorbs this water? It's the root hair. So a root hair absorbs water and mineral ions from the soil. Alright, so let's talk about the epidermis. So this layer, epidermis, we are saying protects the root against infections by viruses and bacteria and dehydration. So that's what it does. It protects the root. Then the root cap, which is this part here, protects the meristem from mechanical damage as the root penetrates through the soil particles. So this one here protects the meristem, the growing part or point of the root is what is known as the meristem. So this root cap protects this part here from mechanical damage as the root penetrates through the soil particle. So as the root is growing through the soil particle, it has the outer part called the root cap, which protects the inside part of the root from mechanical damage. Alright, I hope you're understanding these points. So now let's move and look at the internal structure of the root. The internal structure of the root. Alright, so what we are going to learn also here is that the internal structure or the internal parts of the root consists of xylem, phloem, cortex, root tip or apical meristem as shown below. What have we learned? That the internal parts of the root consist of xylem, 2 phloem, 3 cortex, 4 root tip, also known as apical meristem as shown below. So this is the root hair of the cell, the root of the cell, and what its internal parts are. What are they? The xylem. Where is the xylem? This part here. Alright, this middle part here. You have seen this line there. It's pointing at the xylem. What else also? The phloem, that part there. That's the phloem. What else? The cortex. Which is the cortex? It is this part here. Alright, what else? Root tip. Which root tip? The other name is what? Apical meristem. Where is it? This part here, apical meristem. Alright, so These are the most internal parts of the root you must not forget. Apical, meristem, and then what else? The cortex. What else? The cortex. What else? The phloem. What else? The xylem. All right. So also you might also be interested to know that there's also this inside layer here, somewhere here. All right. So this line here between this cortex, this line, this black line here, it is called the endodermis. The endodermis. Then we are told here downward here, this one here, it is called the primary phloem, and then we have this, the down one here is called the primary xylem. Very important, guys. All right, now let's look at the functions of these parts of the root. Then we are going to talk about the xylem. What is the function of the xylem? We are saying to transport water and ions up the root. That's the function of the xylem. All right. Yeah. So this xylem, we are saying its function, this xylem, this inner part here of the root, its function is to transport water and ions up the root. So now you are knowing what each one of these does. So we said the root hair absorbs water and mineral salts from the soil. Now here we are learning that the xylem transports water and ions up the root. So this part here. Then next is the phloem. This part here. Alright, this part here, the phloem. Alright, so what is the function of the phloem? We are told the phloem transports sucrose and amino acids from the leaves to other parts of the plant. Alright, so that's the function of the phloem, to do what? To transport sucrose and amino acids from the leaves to other parts of the plant. Now it is opposite from what? The leaves. So what happens in the leaves? Leaves makes food for plants by photosynthesis. Once this food has been made, it needs to be transported to each and every part of the plant that needs it for energy and also for growth. So once food is made, then it has to be transported through what vessel? Through the phloem vessel. So the phloem transports sucrose and amino acids from the leaves to other parts of the plant. What else is the cortex? So this cortex here, what is its function? Stores food as a starch in winter. So in times when we are in a dry season, plants do not make a lot of food because of lack of a lot of water. So plants do store some food in a part of a leaf of a root called the cortex. So stores food as a starch in winter. All right. Now what else? Root tip. So we have the root tip. The root tip. This one, or apical meristem. So what is the function of the apical meristem? Grows as the cells divide. So grows, this one grows as the cell divides. All right, so meaning that the cells have to divide for growth to take place. So for this root here to continue growing, becoming long and long, it means what happens is this apical meristem which actually grows. All right, so let's move to the next part. Now we'll talk about the external structure of the stem. So we are done with the root. Now we are moving to the stem. All right, so now we'll be looking at the external structure of the stem, guys. All right, so what you should know also, guys, here is that the external structure of the stem consists of apical bud, auxiliary bud, leaves, internodes, then node, branches, flowers, fruits, and fruits or seeds. Yeah, we can ignore fruit being repeated here. So these are the things which makes up the stem: apical bud, auxiliary bud, leaves, internodes, nodes, branches, flowers, fruits, and the seeds, like here. So this is just a demonstration. We have some leaves here, we have these in between here called auxiliary bud, then we have this top part here called the apical bud, then we have this distance from one leaf to another called the internode, then we have this one as the node, the point at which a leaf grows. All right, so this is what the external part of the stem consists of. Then what we should also know is that the leaves receive sunlight to photosynthesize. That is their function in a leaf. It is, in a plant, to receive sunlight to photosynthesize or manufacture glucose. Then what about flowers? Get pollinated. So flowers get pollinated for fertilization. How about fruits? Fruits are held on the stem in such a way that the ripe fruit and seed can be scattered easily. So that's their function, to make sure that when a fruit is ripe, it can easily be scattered, or it can easily scatter the seed for pollination. Then the stem also stores food, transport water from the roots to the leaves, and it transports carbohydrates to the roots and some stems. All right, so that's what we should know here. So the leaves carry out photosynthesis, then flowers carry out pollination, then fruits carry out also pollination in terms of scattering the seed, and then the stem stores food, transport water from the roots to the leaves, and transports carbohydrates to roots and some stems. All right, I hope this is making sense to you guys. All right, so now let's look at now the internal structure of the stem. Now we have looked at the external. Now we want to look at inside the stem. How does it look? So we are saying the internal structure of the stem consists of there are some words that are missing here that I'm going to replace. So you must write as the internal structure of the stem consists of the epidermis, the cortex, pith, xylem, and phloem vessels. So the internal structure of the stem consists of the epidermis, cortex, pith, xylem, and phloem vessels as shown. All right, so this is the cross section through a stem. So a stem, it has been cut to show what is inside. So what does it consist of? It has anyway the outer layer here, which is the epidermis, then it has the inside part, this one here called the cortex, then it has the central part here called the pith, then it has what is known as the cambium as well. Even when I did not mention it here, there is also a cambium, guys, that we must know, which is a separation between the xylem and the phloem. So this is the phloem and this is the xylem. Now that line in between there, it also goes there, there, and there. So that line is what is known as the cambium, the boundary between the phloem and the xylem. All right, so when you magnify this, when you zoom out this part here, this will be the xylem here, and this will be the cambium, and this will be the phloem. That is in the stem, guys. All right, so now as usual we should know that the function of the xylem is to transport water and ions up the root, and then the function of the phloem is to transport sucrose and amino acids from the leaves to other parts of the plant. And then we should know that the cambium here makes new xylem and phloem vessels as the plant grows. So this cambium here makes new phloem and xylem vessels as the plant grows. Very important, guys. And then also cortex and the pith. So this pith here and this cortex here, so these stores food as a starch in winter. All right, they store food as starch in winter. So I hope, guys, you are understanding, because trust me, these are the best notes you are going to find on the internet, or you are going to learn anywhere else. As far as I know, you wouldn't find notes like these. For me to write them, I take some time and research very well to come up with easy to understand and straightforward notes with points. So make sure you pay attention, you write the notes even as you learn. All right, now let's look at the internal structure of the dicot root. All right, so there is what we call a dicot root. So what is a dicot root? So a dicot root is a root of a plant whose seed divide into two, like a seed of a bean and groundnuts. When you look at a seed of a bean or beans, when you soak it in water, try to peel up the epidermis, what you would see is that it has two parts. All right, those the dicot, they are two. All right, so those plants which have got a seed that divides into two are known as the dicot. So now we are going to look at the internal structure of a dicot root, like a root of a bean plant. All right, and also we'll look at also the internal structure of a monocot root. So a monocot root, like maize, when you soak it, when you peel it, you peel the outer part, you'll find that it is not going to divide into two. So that kind of a seed that has one coat, all right, or cotyledon, is known as a monocot. So we'll look at how the internal structure of a dicot root looks, and then we are going also to look at the internal structure of a monocot and see how these two look. All right, so we'll start with this one here. So when we look at the dicot root, inside it there we have the like a cross there, which is the xylem. Then we have this black stuff here, which is the phloem. Then we have that's the inside part here, this inside part here known as pericycle. Then we have this part here, or this part here, this ring here, known as endodermis. Then we have this one here known as cortex. Then we have the outer part here known as epidermis. Very important, guys, you need to take note. See also how this a monocot root looks like. What happens? It is different, guys. All right, so here you see that we have the xylem alone, and then we have also the phloem well separated, and then we have the central part, pericycle pith, that's what it is being called. Then we have this ring here, endodermis. Then we have the cortex. Then we have epidermis. You take note of these, because they may ask you to say, they may bring these two diagrams here and ask you from which type of a plant is it coming from. So you know that in a dicot it must have like a cross in a root, the xylem here, all right, but in a monocot it does not have like a cross in a root, all right. Then what are some of the function of these parts? We already looked at the epidermis, the cortex, xylem, and then phloem. Now we'll look at the endodermis. So the endodermis contains waterproof Casparian strips which control water flow into the vesicular bundle. So in this endodermis here, there is waterproof Casparian strips. All right, just know that there are waterproof Casparian strips which control water flow into the vesicular bundle. So these control water flow into this vesicular bundle. So when water is coming, they control it so that it flows nicely inside there. Equally here, the same thing, endodermis. Then the pericycle gives rise to side roots. So this pericycle here, these parts here inside there, it is the one that gives rise to roots, or it is the one that produces new roots or side roots. All right, so I hope you are getting the point. Next, now let's look at the internal structure of a monocot stem and also the internal structure of a dicot stem. So we looked at the dicot root, monocot root. Now we are looking at a monocot stem and the dicot stem. All right, so internal structure of a monocot stem will look like this, and that of a dicot stem will look like this. All right, so you see that the vesicular bundles are scattered throughout the cortex vessel, the cortex vessel. So the vesicular bundle, guys, to remind you again, vesicular bundle consists of the xylem and the phloem. So they are scattered here throughout what? This cortex. All right, but when it comes to the internal structure of a dicot stem, the vesicular tissue forms a ring around the pith. So this vesicular bundle here has formed a ring around the pith. So inside here there's the pith, and these have surrounded nicely to form like a ring. All right, so here the vesicular bundle are scattered throughout the cortex tissue, but here the vesicular tissue or bundle forms a ring around the pith. That's the difference that we have noted, that you should also note. Here also what you should see is that each vesicular bundle is oval in shape. All right, so these ones are oval in shape. Phloem tissue is located at one end of the oval, with xylem tissue making up the rest. So yeah, they are existing opposite on the other. So on this side where the arrow is coming, that's where the xylem is. On the other side where this arrow is going, that's where the phloem is. All right, then here we are told the vesicular bundles consist of xylem and phloem tissue separated by the vesicular. All right, so we have this now, or rather this one by the, we can also say the vesicular or the cambium. All right, so when you look at the this dicot stem here, you'll see that the inside part here is the xylem, then the outside is the phloem, then there is a line, a boundary which is separating the phloem from the xylem. That's how it is in the dicot. There is a cambium in between the phloem and the xylem. In here there's no cambium there. And also what you should know is that the cortex is made up of collechyma or whatever it is, collenchyme. Collenchyma, whatever it is, and parenchyma, something like that. All right, so these vesicular cortex here, this part here, the cortex here, and the cortex also here. All right, here, in both here and here, this cortex is made up of collenchyma, something like that, and the parenchyma. I don't know the spelling for these guys. You may just pardon me for not knowing how to pronounce these. So they must be collenchyma and collenchyma and the parenchyma, something like that, or collenchyma and the parenchyma, something like that. So the cortex is made up of the collenchyma and the parenchyma, this cortex here. Then also what you should know is that the collenchyma cells provide support while the parenchyma cells store food. So these collenchyma cells provide support while the parenchyma cells store food. Very important, these details which I'm giving out. Then now let's look at the absorption of water and uptake of mineral salts by roots. So now, how does the root now absorb water from the soil? How does it uptake the mineral salts from the soil so that it can transport it to the other parts of the root or plant? How does that happen? That's what we are now going to look at: absorption of water and uptake of mineral salts by plants. So what you should know, guys, is that the parts of the root involved in the absorption of water and uptake of the mineral salt is the root hair cell. So the root hair cell is the part of the root that is involved in absorption of water and uptake of mineral salts. All right, so the root hair cell contains a solution higher in concentration of sugar and mineral salts than the soil. So this one you must remember in grade 10, where we talked about osmosis, diffusion. We talked about things like plasmolysis, when turgidity. So these are things that we talked about in grade 10 biology. So what is being stated here is this, guys, that inside the cell there's a high concentration of sugar and mineral salts than the soil. This point, guys, you must not forget it. Inside the cell there is a high concentration of sugar and mineral salts than the soil. This is a very important fact, guys. Now, because of this, we are saying, because of this concentration gradient, water molecules move from the soil where they are more into the root hair cell where they are less by the process called osmosis. Now, remember in grade 10 biology where we talked about osmosis as the movement of water molecules from a region where they are in a high concentration to a region where they are in a low concentration. What are they? Water molecules, or rather the movement of water molecules from a dilute solution to a more concentrated solution. Now, the fact that there is a difference in concentration of sugars and mineral salts between the cells of the root and the soil, then there exists what we call concentration gradient. What is a gradient? A gradient is a slope, a downward path. Like when you are going down a hill, that is a gradient. Now, when you are going up the hill, it is very difficult to climb. When you are going down the hill, it is very easy to go down the hill. So meaning there's a gradient, meaning you need more energy to go up than you need energy to go down. So equally also in a plant, inside the plant there are more mineral salts and sugar. They are in high concentration outside the plant in the soil. When the root has entered into the soil particle, there it is in the soil particle. Those soil particles do not have enough sugar and do not have enough mineral salts as compared to what is inside the root of the what is inside the cell of the root. Because of that difference, it creates what we call concentration gradient. That difference in concentration is what we call concentration gradient. That's why we are saying because of this concentration gradient, water molecules move from the soil where they are more into the root hair cell where they are less by the process called osmosis. So I'm explaining how the absorption part is carried out. All right, so here on the other hand, the hair cell, the root hair cell contains concentrated mineral salts than the soil. So on the other hand, the root hair cell contains concentrated mineral salt than the soil. Okay, so again I'm trying to explain another aspect, that the root hair contains concentrated mineral salts than the soil. Now, since the plants still need more mineral salts, they move these mineral salts from the soil into the root hair cells by the use of energy by the process called active transport. So here what is being stated is this. So remember, we are talking about uptake of water and the mineral salts. So the uptake, absorption and uptake of water and mineral salts, meaning the plants are absorbing mineral salts like when you put fertilizer in the soil and when the rain rains. So how does that fertilizer and then how does the water move into the root? This is what we are talking about, guys, here. Now we are trying to explain for you to understand that if a plant is already there, don't think that a plant does not contains fertilizer. It has in the root. Don't think the plant does not contain it contains fertilizer. However, because of having more fertilizer in the, when I say fertilizer, again, I'm just helping you to have more understanding, because we are not calling it fertilizer, we are calling mineral salts. That fertilizer contains mineral salt. It's just to help you. Maybe you might start asking, sir, I'm not understanding what. No. So that is what it is, fertilizer, mineral salts. All right. So even if a plant is there, you don't think that outside the plant there's more mineral salts than inside the plant. No, in fact, inside the plant there is more mineral. Now it still needs more. That's what I'm saying. On the other hand, here I said on the other hand, the root hair cell contains concentrated mineral salts than the soil. Now, since the plant still need more mineral salts, they move these mineral salts from the soil into the root hair cells by the use of energy by the process called active transport. So it's like this. You want to move water from the river up the hill. Can water flow on its own? Never. Because there is a concentration gradient, it cannot go up. This is the same situation with the root hair, and then the same situation with this one here, root hair cell. This root hair cell, which contains more mineral than the soil. So if this one contains more mineral, it has this what we call the concentration gradient. Okay, so meaning this, if we cut, let me cut here like a boundary here. So this is the soil, this side, then this is the root. All right. So now here there are less mineral salts inside the root. There are more mineral salt. For these mineral salt to move, because the root still needs them, then you need to push. If these are mineral salt which are few this side, but here there are many of them on this side of the root. But the root also needs these few which are here. So for it to move here, it's like here there's already congestion. You see, when people are congested, for you to push more, you need more energy. So that's how it is. You need to push these ones here to enter here. That's what we are saying. On the other hand, the root hair cell contains concentrated mineral salts than the soil. So here the root hair has more mineral salts than the soil. Since the plant or the plants still need more mineral salts, even if it has some, it still needs these. So they move these. They will need to move these minerals from the soil this side into the root hair this side by the use of energy, by the process called active transport. So there will need to be energy to start moving these across into the root hair. So that process by which energy is used to transport these mineral salts into the root hair is what is known as active transport. Okay, so I hope you get the point. All right, so this is now a small structure which is now showing soil particles. Then we have, this is the root hair. This is how it looks. Then it has the nucleus, cellulose cell wall, okay, the vacuum. Then here root hair, there's some root hair. Then you have water and mineral ions are absorbed. So they will be absorbed from here and enter there. So in the exam, they ask a question like this one to say, describe the absorption of water and uptake of mineral salts by roots. This is what exactly you are supposed to write, guys. Tell them the part of the root involved in the transportation of water and uptake of the mineral salt is the root hair cell. Tell them the root hair cell contains a solution higher in concentration of sugar and mineral salts than the soil. Tell them because of this concentration gradient, water molecules move from the soil where they are more into the root hair cell where they are less by the process called osmosis. Tell them, on the other hand, the root hair cell contains concentrated mineral salts than the soil. Since the plants still need more mineral salts, they move these mineral salts from the soil into the root hair cells by the use of energy by the process called active transport. All right, now let's move to the movement of water and the transport of minerals from the roots to the leaves. Now here we are already talking about what happens. Now the roots have already absorbed water and have already absorbed mineral salts. Now what happens now for these after they have been transported? Absorbed. It is now transportation into the leaves. Now also you need to know. So that's why we are talking about now the movement of water and the transport of mineral salts from the roots to the leaves. So you need to describe this process as well. So what you should know here is that from the roots, water moves up the stem in the xylem vessels and then into the leaves by 3 primary mechanisms. All right, so water moves, okay, so from the roots water moves up the stem in the xylem vessel and then what, into the leaves by 3 primary mechanisms. So from the roots, water should have been here, water and mineral salts, all right, moves up the stem in the xylem vessels. So these two move through the xylem vessels and then into the leaves by three primary mechanisms. So what are these? It moves by root pressure, transpiration pull, and capillary action. Alright, then you need to explain, as water molecules diffuses from the soil into the root hair cells, this creates root pressure which sucks water into the roots. So there's a creation of sac. When I was growing up, I remember I used to get small pipes which I would pour with my mouth water from one tin into the other. The moment I put water through those small tubes and let it, water started flowing continuously. So my pulling creates what we call transpiration pull or suction pull. So also, as water diffuses or water molecules diffuses from the soil into the root hair cells, the way we explained previously, that water as it enters into the root, it creates what we call root pressure, which sucks water into the roots. So this helps water to move up the leaves. All right. Also, transpiration pull is the force which pulls water from the roots up to the leaves as a result of transpiration. All right. So there's also a process called transpiration. What it is, transpiration is the loss of water by the plant through the leaves. So naturally, leaves, they lose water by evaporation into the environment. So that loss of water into the environment by evaporation from the leaves creates also what we call a pressure known as transpiration pull. So that transpiration pull also helps to suck water up from the roots into the leaves. All right. So transpiration pull is the force which pulls water from the roots up to the leaves as a result of transpiration, and the transpiration is the loss of water by the plant through the leaves. All right. So also, what you should understand is that water also moves up the stem by capillary action. So due to what? Due to the cohesion and adhesion forces between water molecules and the walls of the xylem vessels. So there is always some forces which holds water molecules together. So water molecules are held together, not that they are just held together. No, there are some forces which hold water molecules together. So those forces which hold water molecules together are known as adhesion. But however, there are also other forces, like when you put water in a cup, you find that the cup becomes wet. Water sticks to the cup, and the force which makes water to stick to the cup is what we call cohesion forces. So those also happens in those tubes of plants. So in those tubes of plant, there, when water is flowing from the roots, it enters the tubes, then it sticks to the walls of the tube, which makes it able to move, as also water sticks to each other. When a part of the leaf sticks to the upper part, it pulls the other one. So with these other three processes here, 1, 2, 3 combined, water is able to flow. All right, so when they ask you to describe movement of water and the transport of mineral salts from the roots to the leaves, you need to describe. You tell them, from the roots, water and the mineral salts moves up the stem in the xylem vessels and then into the leaves by three mechanisms, namely root pressure, transpiration pull, capillary action. Then you continue explaining, as water molecules diffuses from the soil into the root hair cells, this creates a root pressure which sucks water into the roots. You tell them transpiration pull is a force which pulls water from the soil up to the leaves as a result of transpiration. Transpiration is the loss of water by the plant through the leaves. Then you continue to tell them water also moves up the stem by capillary action due to the cohesion and adhesion forces between water molecules and the walls of the xylem vessels. Then you are done with this process. So you need to read so that it makes sense. All right. Then from here, we need now to look at this. So we are saying the three primary mechanisms described above creates a continuous flow of water from roots to the leaves called the transpiration stream. Yeah, so as the transpiration is occurring, creating transpiration pool that is pulling water, and also root pressure is also pulling water, and also that capillary action is taking place, that there will be a continuous flow of water from the roots to the leaves continuously. And that continuous flow of water is what we call transpiration stream. Now let's look at the movement of organic solutes in phloem. What are these organic solutes we are talking about? We are talking about sugars and mineral salts. So the movement of sugars and the mineral salts in phloem. Now, how do they move? So what you should know, guys, here is that the distribution of nutrients such as amino acids and sugars in plants is called translocation. So this is the name of the movement of amino acids and sugar in plants. So it is called the translocation. And what you should know is that the nutrient made in leaves are transported to each and every part of the plant to be used by the plant for growth and energy distribution. So just as I said earlier on, any foods that has been made by the leaf, it must be transported to each and every part of the plant for growth and energy production. All right, then you should know that this transportation of nutrients is carried out by the process called active transport. So meaning it needs energy. A plant needs energy to start moving these amino acids and sugars to each and every part of the cell. All right, so these nutrients are transported through the sieve. All right, so these nutrients are transported through the sieve tube elements of the phloem vessels to all parts of the plant. So these amino acids and sugar, they get transported through what are called sieve tube elements of the phloem tubes to all parts of the plant. Then the leaves which supply sugar are known as the source, while other parts of the plant which require sugar are known as the sink. What are these parts that require sugar? What are these parts that require sugar, which are called the sinks? These are the roots, these are the fruits, these are the flowers, these are the buds. The growing part of a plant is called the sink because it goes to use the nutrients that are transported there. Then the source, like the leaves where the sugar is made from, is called the source. Very important, guys. So you have now description, you have taught them the distribution of nutrients such as amino acids and sugar in plants is called translocation. Tell them the nutrients made in leaves are transported to each and every part of the plant to be used by the plant for growth and the energy production. You tell them this transportation of nutrients is carried out by the process called active transport. You tell them these nutrients are transported through the sieve tube elements of the phloem vessels to all parts of the plant. You tell them the leaves which supply sugar are known as the source, while other parts of the plant which require sugar are known as the sink. All right, then from here, now we are saying at the end of the sieve tube where sugars are being unloaded for use, sugars also are removed. Sugars are also removed from the sieve tube by active transport. Yeah. So whenever these things are transported and they reach the destination, then to remove them from there to that part which needs to use them, then they need the plant need active transport. Now let's look at now what transpiration process is, this transpiration process is the loss of water through leaves. So we are saying transpiration is the loss of water by plants through stomata of the leaves. All right, that is what transpiration is. Now, transpiration occurs when the leaf has a high concentration of water molecules, which causes the guard cells located around the stomata to swell and open. Yeah, so since we are talking about transpiration process, we are now explaining how does it occur, this transpiration process. So the explanation is that the transpiration process occurs when the leaf has high concentration of water molecules which causes the guard cells are located around the stomata to swell and open. So there are some cells which are being like shaped that are found at opening. You know, a leaf contains some small opening. Those small opening that a leaf contains is called stomata. So get any leaf, put it against the sun, then look through it into the sun. You'll see that it will have small holes, those which are called stomata. So those stomata are surrounded by cells called guard cells. So it is through those small holes through which water comes out, and that process of coming out of water through these stomata is what we call transpiration. And then we are saying transpiration occurs when the leaf has high concentration of water molecules. So if it has high concentration of water molecules, then the leaf will cause the guard cell located around the stomata to swell and open. So the guard cell look like then like bean like this. Another one is like here. So if they have more concentration of water in a leaf, there's more concentration of water, so these they'll swell like this. So they'll swell, this other part will swell like this, and also this other part will swell like that. When it swells like that, it will leave an opening here. This opening here is what we call the stomata, and this is the part through which the now water vapor comes out through. And this is why we are saying that transpiration occurs when the leaf has high concentration of water molecules, which causes the guard cells located around the stomata to swell and open. All right, so what now we are saying here is that the opening of the stomata causes water molecules to diffuse from the leaf to the atmosphere as water vapor. This process happens during the day and stops at night. Yeah. So what I'm explaining is that opening of the stomata causes water molecules to diffuse from the leaf to the atmosphere as water vapor, and this process happens during the day and stops at night. So during the day, when the plant loses more water than is needed to keep the guard cell open, then the guard cell shrinks. Let's ignore the becomes. The guard cell shrinks and closes so that further water loss is prevented. Yeah, so like if the guard cell is swollen, these guard cells are swollen, like let me just put one guard cell here. This one is swollen, another one is here which is swollen. So if they lose, we are saying during the day when the plant loses more water than is needed to keep the guard cell open, then the guard cell shrinks. So if it loses more water, even this one shrinks, meaning it will straighten like this. Another one comes here, straighten like this. So meaning it will close. This opening will not be there. That's what we mean here. So shrinks and closes so that water loss is prevented. So during the day, when the plant loses more water than is needed to keep the guard cell open, the guard cell shrinks and closes so that further water loss is prevented. Okay, so this prevents wilting, which is the drying of leaf when it loses excess water than it can replace. Yeah, so wilting is the excess loss, so it is prevented by the guard cell, like I have explained. All right, now let's look at the guard cell now. So this is the guard cell gain water here. So when the guard cell gain water here, this is the guard cell, this is the opening here is called the open stoma. This is because we have one stomata. When there are many stomata, when it's one stoma. So this is the guard cell and this is the another guard cell. So now it has these parts that you can know, epidermal cell. This is part here, it is known as the outer wall. Then this line inside there, thick inner wall. Okay, so now guard cell gain water, so it opens. Then here you see the same parts, water leaves guard cell, closed stomata. So this one, because water has left, so the stomata closes. All right, so now transpiration is demonstrated using a potometer, which is an instrument used to measure water loss by measuring water intake. So now what are we trying to say here? Okay, so here what we are trying to say, guys, is that this transpiration can be measured or monitored using an instrument called potometer. All right, so there is an instrument called a potometer which is used to measure uptake of water by a plant. So when using a potometer, it is assumed that water uptake is equal to water loss through transpiration. So whenever there is a use of there is a use of a potometer to measure or demonstrate transpiration, then actually what is assumed is that whatever water is lost must be equal to the water that is gained. All right, so this is how this potometer looks like. So like here they can get a young shoot or a young leafy shoot, they put it in this water here, then it is sealed nicely here, then they get a potometer here which contains with a capillary tube here, capillary tubing here, then there's a measuring meter here, or a scale. So as this one is taking up water and losing by transpiration, that water which was here is now moving, so you can know whether this one is undergoing transpiration or not by monitoring the level of the water here. All right, so now let's look at now factors that affect the rate of transpiration, that loss of water through the leaves. What factors can cause it to go fast or slow? So factors that affect the rate of transpiration: number one, humidity. What is humidity, guys? Humidity is the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere. So what we are saying is that the higher the humidity, the lower the rate of transpiration, and the lower the humidity, the faster the rate of transpiration. So what is meant here is this: if the water has got a more moisture vapor, like it is very cool because maybe it has just rained, plants do not lose water in the leaves because water will not move into the atmosphere because there's already another water there. So that's what we are saying. The higher the humidity, meaning the more water vapor is in the air, the lower the rate of transpiration, and the lower the humidity, the faster the rate of transpiration. Meaning, if the atmosphere around the plant is dry, no water particles are there, then you expect the plant to lose more water to that environment. The number 2 factor is light intensity. So here light intensity causes the stomata to open. Now if it causes the stomata to open, it means that the increase in light intensity increases the rate of transpiration and vice versa. So if you have more light, meaning more stomata will open, and then there will be more loss of water. And then if you have no light, meaning stomata will not open and there will be no loss of water. Then another factor is wind. So we are saying that the wind speed increases the rate of transpiration because water vapor on the surface of the leaf is blown away quickly when the wind is fast. So imagine water is evaporating from the leaf. When it reaches the surface, because there's wind, evaporates quickly. All right, so because it evaporates quick, meaning it will give more room for more to come on the surface. Now because it is being picked quickly by wind, then the rate of transpiration in that leaf, it is going to be faster. All right, so that is the fact. So wind speed increases the rate of transpiration because water vapor on the surface of the leaf is blown away quickly when the wind is fast. This increases diffusion of water from the leaf to the stomata to replace the blown away. This should have been the blown, guys, like this one, the blown away water vapor. So another factor is temperature. All right, so increase in temperature increases the rate of transpiration because temperature increases the kinetic energy of water vapor. All right, so when there's increase in temperature, meaning the water will be warm and then the particles will start evaporating and moving fast because heat gives the particles more energy to begin moving, and because of that there will be higher rate of transpiration. This means water vapor escapes faster from the leaf, increasing the rate of transpiration in the process. All right, now we have finished looking at the factors which affect rate of transpiration. Now let's look at the active adaptive features of a leaf to reduce excess loss of water. So now we'll look at the adaptive features of a leaf that helps the leaf to reduce excess loss of water, because if leaves lose water, expect the plants also to die. So now how do leaves reduce? How are they adapted to reduce loss of water? So number 1, shading of leaves in severe conditions such as summer, reducing the number of stomata so that no water loss can occur. Yes, so have you ever wondered why when in summer, like when we start July, August, September, plants shade their leaves? You see plants dropping their leaves. Have you ever wondered why? The reason is that they don't want to lose the little water now they have. They want to survive up to the next season. So now that's how plants are adapted to reduce excess loss of water. So shading of leaves in severe conditions like summer. All right, so shading of leaves in severe conditions like summer, reducing the number of stomata so that no water loss can occur. So that is the one way of doing that. Then another way, reduces the number of stomata. For example, reduces the number of stomata. For example, most terrestrial plants have very few or no stomata on the upper surfaces of leaves to reduce the rate of transpiration. Some plants have sunken stomata. So reduces the number of stomata, for example. So the point being made here is that some plants now have got a reduced number of stomata. They don't have a lot of tomahawks on their leaves. So most terrestrial, this word terrestrial, it means land. So we are saying those plants that are found on land, like in deserts especially, have reduced the number of stomata on their leaves. And why? So that there's less loss of water. Alright, then some plants have sunken stomata, meaning they have stomatas that are very deep inside, so water do not manage to come out. So reduces the number of stomata. For example, most terrestrial plants have very few or no stomata on the I think this one should have been reduced the number of stomata. Reduce the number of stomata for example, reduce the number of stomata. For example, most terrestrial plants have very few or no stomata on the upper surfaces of leaves to reduce the rate of transpiration. So some plants have sunken stomata here. Another way is so those are the ones. Now let's look at the significance of transpiration in plants. So that transpiration, the loss of water through leaves, is it important in plants? How important it is or is it? So one, we are saying transpiration creates transpiration pool, which helps plant transport water and mineral salts up the stem from to the leaves. So that transpiration, it creates what? Transpiration pool, which does what? Helps plant transport water and mineral salts up the stem to the leaves. Then number two, transpiration helps to cool the plants, because as water is lost, it carries heat with it, cooling the plant in the process. So plants, they get cooled as the water vapor is leaving the leaf. It is carrying some heat, so it makes the plant to cool. Then also transpiration provides water for photosynthesis. As water is being sucked, then it is used for photosynthesis. Then transpiration creates the water cycle. Alright, so transpiration also creates the water cycle, and this water cycle is very, very important for rain. Alright, so guys, I hope you have learned and understood the concept of this lesson on transpiration. Alright, so if you will have questions, then you are free to ask me. So I am your teacher DMS. As for now, guys, I'm going to say bye until we see each other in the next lesson, and I wish you all the best as you learn and enjoy this lesson. Bye.